saying, we just recorded a fantastic episode with our friend Bob Lachance. Bob started his real estate career 2004, started rehabbing properties, slowly accumulating a couple buy and holds, realized that was not the path for him. He quickly realized that he wanted to get into wholesaling, and he went 100% in and built a great business, doing 240 transactions a year, having a great team right by his side.
And if you're looking to find off-market deals right now, because I know it's hard in the market, we go all into that, text messages, emails, all of that kind of stuff. He tells us what's working with his business and how it can affect you. He also talks about his VA business that he has that you can also get to help your business grow. So stay towards the end. We have some great nuggets at the Big Four, and we know you guys are going to love this episode. And here it is. James. How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Real FI Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McGrath, with my co-host, James Rippion. James, how's it going today?
It's going well today, Patrick. Thank you for that warm introduction. I think we're going to have a great episode today. We've got Bob Lachance here with us today. Bob's going to be telling us a little bit about what he's got going on with his businesses and kind of how he's pivoting in this market to make the most of the real estate businesses that he runs and operates. So without further delay, why don't we go ahead and introduce Bob. Bob, why don't you introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about what you do?
Cool. 2-second rundown. I'm from Connecticut up here, a little north of you guys. The weather is what it is. We were just chatting a little about the weather. But I have a couple different companies. One is a virtual assistant company out of the Philippines. I started back in 2014. Prior to that, I started an investment company back in 2004. My current real estate investment company, we did 240 transactions last year, mainly on the wholesale side. We talked a little bit before this podcast. We were up to, I think, about 31 doors, and we decided to sell them. I know we're going to get into that because of the way the market was. But right now we're on pace to do, I think, around the same amount of volume, depending on market conditions. But it's going very well, and I know you guys are going to ask questions a little bit about the investment side and the Philippine side on the VA side. So I'll just let you guys run with it and let me know as far as you want me to dig into it.
Yeah, of course. So first and foremost, I definitely want to get into, it sounds like your wholesaling business. So, I mean, wholesaling has been a really hot topic the last couple of years. And I know personally in my state now they're passing laws where you're not able to wholesale unless you have a real estate license. So talk to us a little bit about how you got into the business, why you got into the business, and how you've been able to scale up, to 200 plus transactions in a year.
Yeah, I started investing back in 2004, so a little bit before maybe a lot of your listeners. Played professional hockey for 8 years prior to that. So I left school 2 classes early from getting my degree, Boston University. So instead of going back to school, I figured I'd jump into an industry that had 0 barriers of entry. So I'm like, you know what? Real estate investing is the best thing to do. And so I jumped in 2004, and my first deal was a rehab. Then I joined one of my business partners back in the day. I jumped in the short sale world. This is 04, 05, 06, 07, before obviously the whole sky fell in the real estate market. And I did, over 1,000 transactions on the short sale side, and then jumped into the real estate education business. So I worked with a company called Fortune Builders, helped start that company back in the day, back in 2007. My job was running the actual coaching program and helping, recruit and bring on new coaches for the organization. And then I was also flipping property at the same time, short sales, rehabs, all that kind of good stuff. Starting to get some buy and hold traction as well, which I know we'll get into. And then 2014, I was looking at all the student base that we've gone through. Probably went through 50, 60, 70,000 students at that time. And there was a common theme about time. A lot of the students were asking for, what they can do in their business. And in order for them to actually do the tasks that I was giving them, they needed more time in their day, because many of them were working part-time, full-time, just like many individuals that probably listen to your podcast that are looking for financial freedom and more time in their day. So I look for whether it's a service, product, anything to help the students out. And then I got introduced to what a virtual assistant was, and light bulb went on. I'm like, you know what? What if I hired my first one, and I'm like, what if I marry the two together and create a business out of it? So that started back and really started 2013 and 2014. Light bulb went on, and I opened my first company, and then offered it to obviously the student base. And I wanted to see if the proof of concept was there, and it ended up, worked out. And today I have over 1,000 virtual assistants.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome. There's just so much
Yeah.
there to unpack. Let's figuring out where to start here. Let's wind it back a little bit back to, the 2004, 5, 6 era when you're starting to get into real estate, really starting to, test the waters. You said you had gotten involved with short sales. Let's talk a little bit about short sales and what your involvement was there, because I feel like, maybe we're entering a market where we could see some more opportunities similar to that on the near horizon. So educate us a little bit about short sales and kind of what you were doing with that side of your business.
Yeah, I first started, I got introduced, like I said, my first deal was a rehab, and I didn't know anything about real estate investing, to be 100% transparent. I joined a RIA group, a local RIA group, and just like, you guys have meetup groups, things like that. And I saw a speaker on short sales. Just to be transparent, I had no idea what a short sale was, right? Zero idea. And then next event, I introduced myself and I said, hey, who's the best guy in Connecticut that does short sales? And they all pointed to the same guy. So I walked up to him, his name's Pat Precourt. I said, Pat, you have no idea who I am, but I'm interested in, joining a team. I don't like working by myself. I think the best way to make money is with other people. That's just, my opinion. I know a lot of people like working by themselves. I'm not that person. I like building teams, working with other individuals. So he goes, you know what? I'm looking for a door knocker. I'm like, all right, I didn't know what's a door knocker. He's like, well, come to my office. I'll sit down. I'll show you. So come to find out, a door knocker was, he handed me a list of pre-foreclosure properties. Those are individuals that weren't paying their mortgage, and a script. So I went from door to door, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Monday through Friday for 1 year. So obviously I learned to cut my teeth, got properties under contract. And then from there, I started to learn how to negotiate with banks. And then I brought on another door knocker. So I built a team from that side of it. And then learn how to negotiate with banks. And just to get into what a short sale is, when the debt exceeds the value of the property. So you got to negotiate it down to where it's a buyable number to be able to resell it to make money. So that's just a little bit about how I got into the short sale world and what short sales are.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that whole concept is really interesting because especially in my market, it's a military town. So people are buying a lot of properties with 0% down VA financing. And looking at some of the prices that people are paying, you kind of wonder and hope, I hope they plan to stay there for a long time, just in case like the worst happens, they don't need to sell. So of course, that kind of situation is when the seller's equity has been totally wiped out. Let's talk a little bit about the conversations you would have with banks. Like how does that rapport go and work to work with a lender to kind of come to terms with selling a property underwater like that and taking a loss?
Yeah, it's pretty streamlined now. You send an authorization into the bank to be able to speak to them on the homeowner's behalf. And then what they do is they send you it's called a short sale package. It's a bunch of documentations to make sure that they cannot really afford the property. But what they do is they send out an independent evaluator. I know some of the stuff changes, per bank, but they'll send out whether it's an appraisal or a BPO, broker price opinion, which is the licensed real estate agent. They're also starting to do desktop as well. So I know some of that changes. So don't hold me to, there's just a wide variety of banks that you deal with. And then someone values the property and then they assess what the offer is. Behind the scenes, a lot of people don't know that let's say it's Bank of America. They service properties for, let's say, 300 to 400 investors out there that actually own that money. So they service it. They don't own that money, and they have different discount ratios. So what that means is if the property value comes back at 100,000, forget the debt. Property value comes back 100,000. This one investor will tell Bank of America that they'll accept a net in their pocket of, let's say, $87,000 as an example. So that's just a little bit of behind the scenes. And then you have to figure out if your offer fits within there. I know agents are going to make a lot of money on this side of it. Also rehabbers, the turnkey properties, the banks are looking for a little more than, the properties that are distressed. Back in the day, it was a little different. I know it's changing today. So just to keep everyone informed.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's super interesting. And I think for everyone out there, I do believe that, we could be coming into more short sale opportunities, more foreclosure opportunities. And this is just another tool in the tool bag when you're going out there and looking to take down some deals. So, during this time you're doing all these transactions, in the short sale business, you're knocking on doors, basically speaking with homeowners, trying to get them to allow you to buy their house or get it under contract. And then talk about your real estate journey from there, like before you started the VA business and went into the coaching. Like, what was it really that got you into like buying into real estate?
When I first got involved, I grew up, my father was a contractor, but he kept us away from, to be honest with you, he never wanted us to get into that business. There's some ups and downs in the contractor world. He came from Canada. It was just a little different kind of mindset there. But he never wanted us to go into business. But I'm like, you know what? I was always interested in getting into real estate. And when I got into it, my first deal, I made 32 grand on a rehab property. So I'm like, all right, now I'm hooked, right? But I also realized I had zero systems, zero process. I had no education. Back in the day, there weren't podcasts like this one. There weren't, things online like we have now. So I had to, build a team from there. But I was just hooked right away. And I know, like we all say, we've all done research on how many people have gotten their riches or their money and their financial independence from real estate. So all of it, it's pointed towards that. And I was like, all right, I'm in. So sold right from then.
That's typically how it goes. I know it's the
Yep.
same way for us when we did our first deal and the house appraised for over 100,000 more than what we bought it for in like 9 months. And I was like, all right, this actually works. Like you hear about it on podcasts like this, but until you go out there and do your first one yourself and physically like see it, you get that first rent check or that appraisal comes back or you sell that first house and then a light bulb goes off and you're like, all right, I'm all in. I am all in on this. So talk about how your journey kept progressing, from doing the short sales on.
Yeah, it's funny, and I just want to bring this up because I think it's extremely important. Forget that I was in, I'm not in it anymore, but I was in the kind of the education side. I think everybody should go through either an education program or have a mentor. Or a coach. I really, really, truly believe that because you will cut your learning curve down by 60, 70, 80%, and you will make way more money. So just a little, right now, just give a little heads up, part of, I think, 3 or 4 different masterminds right now. And it's imperative for us to stay ahead of the curve to know what changes, right? Listening to your podcast as well helps you keep a little bit ahead of the curve. So I think all of us, need to be part of those organizations, right? Whether it's a podcast like this or whether it's masterminds or coaching programs, I think it's extremely, extremely important. So for us, I look at if right now I look at my business since, you look at COVID, that was a fluff market. Let's call it what it is. We thought the sky was falling. All of a sudden now investors came out of the woodwork that didn't get the proper education. And some of them are out of the business now because they never took the time to really learn how to run a business. I think it's very important to learn that. But my point was being part of these organizations and having, mentors and partners all around the country, you stay ahead of the curve. So when something changes, you change with it, whether it's a marketing channel, right? Whether it's cold calling, text messaging, PPC, direct mail, whatever that is, you kind of know when it changes if you have other individuals around the country that you could bounce stuff off of, right? I think that's extremely important. If I didn't have that, I would have struggled through that time. But instead, we actually doubled down on our marketing where some of the gurus out there were saying, oh, pull back, hold your money back. We doubled down on marketing and we came out on top. And we continue to do that through all of the marketing channels. So I think that part of it's extremely important. I don't know if I answered your question or sometimes they go off on a tangent, but I don't know if I answered that question.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit further because I know personally how important masterminds and peer education can be. And I've engaged a lot of that myself, going to meetups and then starting my own little groups and, having just a peer network of people to bounce ideas off of. In your experience, where did you find those mastermind networks become a part of? Was it part of a paid program that you joined, or was it just people that you happened to meet at industry events? Like where are you meeting these people that you became associated with?
Well, it was industry events. It's meetups like you guys run. I mean, think about this. You guys know so many people, even running this podcast. Running a podcast is a great way to meet people, right? You have individuals like me. If you're ever in Connecticut, you guys can give me a call. We'll go grab a beer. We'll talk about real estate. I'll introduce you to someone else. Like I have a bunch of people that I could send over to you guys if you guys want more guests, as an example, right? So that's where it starts. It starts with things like this: local meetup groups. You meet someone that have a podcast, be a guest on a podcast, and it starts snowballing from there to where, think about this. Referrals are this in the brokerage game, referrals are the best way to make money in this business, right? So referrals are the best way that we all can work together as well.
Mhm.
I love how you touch base on that, because one of the selfish reasons that James and I started this podcast was because we needed to grow a network to grow ourselves. And the best way to be able to do that was to build a platform to have other investors be able to come on and tell their story, and then us be able to ask our questions that we need help with while focusing on our own business. And it's this self-perpetuating cycle that we've had now. And like you said, every single guest that we have on has offered up their knowledge and their numbers to us, and we can reach out. And that's how we've built our own kind of like weekly mastermind. We do this once a week. So for the listeners out there, if you're struggling to find a mentor in your area, or there's not a meetup in your area, start one. I started one, James started one. Start a YouTube channel or a podcast, and just, start reaching out to people and provide some value to them. And in turn, like you said, you're going to meet those other people. Now, in regards to those paid mentorship programs, which ones are you involved in? I've thought about becoming members in a couple of them, and that's one thing that my goal is for this year. Like, if you wouldn't mind pulling back the curtain on what you're doing.
Yeah, Collective Genius is a great one. I've been part of that organization for a long time. Another one is Boardroom, Kent Clothier's organization, another phenomenal one. I've known Kent for, I don't know, since 2004, 2005 we met. So those two, right, the top ones. I'm looking at a couple other ones as well. Mike Hambright's as well. So I would say, just off those three right there, I'd highly recommend. And I think it's really, really important. And now I touch upon this, really important to keep your finger on the pulse. And I just want to take a step back and meetup groups. Just like you said, you brought up something important. When you run a meetup group, you're looked at as the expert. Whether you are or you aren't, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. It's a great way to drive in business as well. You could have speakers. You could literally moderate the whole thing, have speakers come in and actually speak to everyone and teach on wholesaling, a local wholesaler. The outcome of that is your network's going to build up and you will get deals out of it. So if you're struggling, set one of these up, and you could not only learn, obviously educate yourself, meet a lot of people, but in the end, you will have deals sent to you because you are the so-called expert in that area. So I just want to add that,
No, that's 1,000%. I started a meetup 10 months ago, and just yesterday, someone that came to one of the meetups where we had a speaker at, she just sent me a possible deal for 8 units right in my area, just because she thought of me. I was the first person that she thought of. So, it's so true. These things are so true. James, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, just looking at people who have become super successful in life and business, there's a common theme, and it's not all the time that it's the subject matter experts. It's the connectors, the social people, the people who are willing to facilitate relationships between, two different diverse backgrounds of people, where there can be value added. So, Patrick, I agree 100%, man. Like, go join a meetup or go start one. It's, there's a little bit of fear to overcome, especially, attending the first one, if you haven't been to one before, but, you're going to get a lot of value out of it no matter what.
Yeah. And on the topic of the meetups and the mentors and everything, tell the listeners, or where was it when you realized that you really needed one? You had the mentor, it sounds like, at that first company where you were door knocking, but then throughout the progression of your business, what was it that, really pinpointed it down? Like, hey, I need a coach, I need a mentor, I need that person to push me.
Well, it actually started after my first deal. When I first started real estate, I got in my car and I bought a book all about real estate, but all about nothing. It wasn't, it was I think the gentleman's name was David Wisnett. He was an attorney, but investor. And it was all about real estate, but nothing specific, but they taught me how to farm areas, which means I got in my car and I looked at every property up and down neighborhoods. And what I would do is I would see a property that looked like it needed work. So I'd call them. At this time, I thought I was a rehabber. Again, I never did a rehab at all. Like, no rehab, nothing. But I would call on properties. I'd call on agents. I'd start building my network. Ended up getting into one property. I made an offer. I think it was listed at 185. Made an offer at 135. They accepted the offer. They were motivated. I had no idea what the story was behind the scenes. And then I had to find contractors. I had to find the money for it. Ended up did a 1 month rehab. Found great contractors. Made 32 grand. But after that, like I said, I looked in the mirror. I'm like, I have zero systems. I didn't know what to do after that because, I'm back and forth to Home Depot. Literally, no kidding. 3 or 4 times a day for 30 days straight. And I'm like, man, I need help. I was beat up after that, right? Because I had zero systems, zero processes, and I didn't have a network that I needed, properties to come in. Again, I thought I was a rehabber. So that at that point I knew, I need something. I need a network and things like that. So it really started from after that first deal when I realized, man, I need some help.
Gotcha.
That's amazing. Go ahead, James.
Well, yeah, and let's take it from there. I'm kind of curious to know how you built up your wholesaling business because,
Yep.
like as you mentioned before, you got up to about 200 transactions a year
Yep.
through that business, and that's pretty remarkable.
Mhm.
Let's talk about what that business looked like. What was your average kind of assignment fee
Yeah.
in that business, and like what did your revenue look like? And talk about.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to 2016. So that's when I met my current business partner. So I had my virtual assistant company going. I was just getting out of the education business. I was really dabbling in real estate because I was making good money in the education business and my VA business. So I'm like, you know what? I love real estate. And I'm like, all right, I got to get back into it. I'm doing, loans, I'm doing partnership deals, but not really a, full-blown business like we have today. So I met my business partner and we ended up, start rock and rolling. He's right now he's 31. He's an A personality. He's a driver, right? So we would sit down and we would set out a vision, and we started with just me and him. Then we added one guy. We had another guy. Now we're at 10 acquisition reps. We have 2 dispo. We have transaction coordinators. We have a COO, office managers. Now it's a pretty good size, and we use all my virtual assistants to drive in the leads. But it didn't, it wasn't like that until literally we just kept building year after year after year. COVID hit, and we're like, what do we do? We didn't know what was going to happen. So we just kind of slowed down. We dumped money into marketing, but we didn't hire at that time because we didn't know what was going on. And then right after prices started going up, we're hiring. So today we're hiring. We just had 3 interviews today for a sales manager and 2 other acquisition guys. So we are in a different spot, obviously, today, but it takes a little time. Right now, last year, I got to check my numbers. I'm usually pretty accurate on those numbers, but I think our average profit last year was 21,000-ish. Because we do properties in different markets, and what brought our number down, we were doing some deals in Toledo, and the profit margins are that big just because of the values of the property. Now we've literally just had a deal we just closed. It was, I think, about $91,000. That brings up the numbers. We're at about $28,000, which is our profit margin right now today. That may change tomorrow if I'm on your podcast again in 6 months. That number may change, but just because we changed a little bit of our model and where we actually invest.
Yeah, I mean that makes a ton of sense. So for someone out there listening that is looking to find their own deals, being a wholesaling expert, closing 200 plus transactions a year, peel us behind the curtain a little bit and what's working, because I know I'm getting text messages, I'm getting phone calls, I send out postcards, they've worked for me, but what's working for you and your team?
So we do a lot of cold calling, text messaging. And again, check out, I'm not an attorney, check out exactly, your own state laws and things like that. So that's my disclosure, right? That's my disclaimer. I'm going to throw it at you guys. But I do a lot of text messaging, a lot of cold calling, direct mail. We're starting to do PPC as well. So but the main ones we're doing are cold calling and text messaging to drive in a majority of the leads. Like you said, direct mail is always good, right? And I know every market kind of look for a 1% return rate on that. And then PPC is going to take you, a little while to get up and running, but mainly those 4 channels are what we're doing today.
So explain PPC a little bit. Is that digital advertising like Facebook, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's, pay-per-click. So there's, that online. So if you have a form online, you're driving people to that form and they on your website, let's say, and then it goes right to you.
Gotcha. Let's chat about all your avenues of marketing there. Like, what's your favorite? What's really working well? What has a better conversion rate? The mailers, cold call, texting, pay-per-click. What's working?
Text message first, cold calling second, PPC, like I said, we're starting to get ramped up, but I would say direct mail third. PPC may jump ahead of everyone. I don't know. But I could, like I said, we just started working with a company where we're getting a lot of leads on that, but we're doing kind of a partnership because the guy owns that company. So we're doing a partnership with him. So I will be able to report back, but I would say text messaging number one, and it's the cheapest as of right now, and then cold calling.
Gotcha.
And we have all our virtual assistants do that. So I don't do, just so you know, I don't do any of that. We have our VAs doing that. And what happens is once they get someone who raises their hand that says they're interested in sell, then they fill out a form. It goes right to my database, and then our acquisition guys call them.
So let's dig into the system of the text messaging. So I'm just particularly curious about that. Are you sending a list of people's names to these VAs and then they're skip tracing them and texting them themselves?
Yeah.
Or do you have some sort of system that is, blast messaging everybody automatically, and then the VAs are kind of just responding on a per response basis as they come in?
Yeah, I'll give you exactly what we do. So what I do is let's say you use a list provider like PropStream as an example, right? Let's say I'm pulling Connecticut, and I'm doing West Hartford, Connecticut, Simsbury, Southington. So what I'll do is I'll pull all of the data in that area, and I'll download that list. I'll get it skip traced. Skip tracing means finding the best possible phone number for that particular record. And then I'll take all that data and I'll upload it into the system, one of the systems we use, Smarter Contact, let's say, for a text message platform. And then my virtual assistants are trained on what messages to send. And as soon as they send those messages, they get responses back, and we train them on how to go back and forth, pick up the phone, really pre-screen that call, and then send that lead over to us. So that's how my system goes. So it's pretty much the same on the cold calling side. PropStream, skip tracing, upload it into a dialer, whatever dialer you're going to use, Mojo Sells, Five9, etc. Virtual assistants call. We're just looking for anybody that says, yes, I'm interested in entertaining an offer. That goes to our acquisition team. So it's very, very simple. That's exactly what we do in both platforms.
And what would you guys say that your close rate is from lead to close?
So lead to close. I got to check my numbers again because we just brought on a marketing guy, marketing manager, a director of marketing. Let's say we get 100 leads a week.
Mm-hmm.
So lead to close. I think today we're closing about 14 to 15 deals a month. Like I said, we're a little bit behind last year, but our spreads are a little higher. So I don't know the exact number, what that looks like. I look at it as a numbers game, because when a lead comes in, most of the money is made in follow-up. We like to say it's very difficult to do a one call close, meaning our acquisition guy calls them for the first time. It usually takes between 7 to, let's say, 12 touches to turn that property into a contract. So it's not that's why you got to keep going. It's a consistency game. Once you stop, you're gonna dry out for a little while, and then you restart, and then you're gonna get going again. So you got to do marketing on a daily basis or a weekly basis, or you're gonna run into that. I mean, we probably all ran into that issue because we got busy doing a rehab, or we got busy here, and we just stopped the marketing. So the marketing channels can never stop.
That's one of the things that I've learned the most is, I started sending out my mailers, and they go out every 2 weeks, 6 touches. And then I stop for a month or two, and then I restart it back up again, because I'm sending mine to like 300 properties that I've identified in my area. Because I'm not a wholesaler. I'm just looking to acquire more rental properties. That's my specific thing, and they take a long time. But I really love what you said there, because it's a sales game. And for anyone that hasn't had any sales experience, typically it takes between 7 and 12 touches to close someone. So you're basically saying the same exact thing. It takes between 7 and 12 touches to actually get that contract and get that ball going. And you need to have a wide net. If you're someone out there just looking to find an off-market property for yourself, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to send out 300 postcards. You might get 3 calls, and of those 3 calls, you just have to stay in touch with people. And it takes time. But like you're saying, if you're consistently doing it every month, your pipeline starts to build up. and
Yeah.
you've got different people in different parts of the sales cycle. So it's a sales business. And that's what I think sometimes people don't understand is, if you're looking at real estate, you have to be looking at it as a business. It is a business, whether you own one rental or 15 rentals. If you treat it as a business and you put your systems in place like you have, then that's really the key to becoming successful, right?
Yeah, and then let me add to that, Patrick, because that's a great point. And I totally missed that part of it because you could have all these big teams out there, and if you don't focus on sales training, because you nailed it. I mean, you could have 100 leads in your database, but if you don't know how to sell, you're going to have a difficult time. So what we've done, and this is one of the things that actually helped us out in our own businesses, we have sales training a couple times a week, right? We hired some sales trainers, and we do this virtually, so you guys could, you could do this virtually. But sales training is extremely, extremely important for, not only ourselves to grow, but our salespeople to grow. There's a stat out there that said, even salespeople, they have to refresh and go through sales training every 90 days. We do it every week, but just the industry standard is no matter what, if you're a sales assassin, you still lose your skills. So you got to re-up every 90 days. So if you do it every week, I think you will set yourself up, you'll separate yourself from everybody else. I think it's a great point there. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, I have a background in sales. I mean, I started doing Kirby vacuums door to door, just like knocking on doors.
Patrick, I
And
didn't know you
then
sold vacuums, man. That's a new fact.
I did Kirby vacuums, man, for a summer. Basically ended up making like $1 an hour with all that bullshit. But it was one of the best experiences ever because you learn,
Yeah.
you learn that a no just gets you closer to a yes. And that
Right.
is the hardest thing that anyone can comprehend. It's the
Mm-hmm.
rejection. Rejection beats everyone down. Even the best salesperson, rejection sucks. And if you're looking for off-market properties and you're looking to find good deals, rejection needs to be your friend, really. Like, you just look at that as you got to a no sooner. You got to a no the quickest way possible.
Yep.
And that just gives you more time to focus on the people that you could potentially get a yes from. And that's really one of the biggest things with sales. And there's a lot of people out there that I don't like sales. But look, you're like Grant Cardone, is love him or hate him. He's got a book called Sell or Be Sold. And that's really how life is. You're either selling or you're being sold to. And with real estate, you're always going to be in that, whether it's a property that you're renting, you're trying to sell that to someone to come and rent it, whether it's a flip that you're doing, whether it's trying to get that off-market deal from that older landlord that might be going through something. You're selling yourself on why they should buy it from you. And that's what you guys are doing. Hey, why should the person sell their property to you in your company instead of listing it with an agent or something else where they might be able to make a little bit more money? And that's what your salespeople are kind of articulating with the wholesale business. Now, with that business that you've had, did you cherry pick any of the good properties, to kind of hold on to as yourself, or was it all, getting those assignment fees?
No, it was all about getting assignment fees. When we were buying and holding, we would look at them. We wouldn't cherry pick because our sales guys, we have to make sure our sales guys get paid first, right? I mean, I think that's really, really important. So you'd say, all right, what's the market value? And then let's say hypothetically you're making $30,000 profit on it. If your sales guys are going to make 10%, pay them 10% on what that market value is. So if you're going to buy it for 100 and you could really sell it for 130, make sure you pay your guys. If it's 10%, make sure you pay your guys $3,000 for that commission for getting that work. So that's what we would do. So if anyone's looking at that model, that's usually a pretty good model to follow because your salespeople will start getting pissed off if you're cherry picking like that and you don't buy it at a value that you could sell it on the open market. So just be careful on that side of it.
Makes a ton of sense. Makes a ton of sense.
It's good to treat your employees right, man. I mean, you want them to be doing hard work for you. So that's 100%. Rule number one. Let's talk about your process as you were starting to get into buy and hold, because, we were having a little bit of conversation earlier about, the fact that you got up to 32 units and then something happened after that. So, let's talk about where you were when you started to buy some of the properties that you had and walking up through the life cycle of those deals and where they are today.
Yeah, so we set up a goal to get to 100. I know we talked about this before, before we jumped on this call about getting to a certain unit count. We wanted to get to 100 and then to 200 and keep going. So we ended up getting to that 32 number. And for me, it was a hassle, right? I don't like getting calls from tenants. We didn't get the right systems set up. Some people love this. Again, this is not me. I was an agent 2005. I listed one property. I got like 100 calls. I'm trying to eat dinner with my family. I'm like, I'm out. I'm never listing a property again. So it takes a certain person. And I'd recommend, setting up systems and processes. I know you guys do a good job of that, especially on your buy and holds. For us, we didn't have them set up correctly. And then we started looking at all our numbers. Market started going up too. So this all happened simultaneously, where we started again and we're like, all right, should we start a property management company? Should we outsource? We tried a couple property management companies and then we looked at it and we're like, you know what? We came back from a mastermind and we're like, you know what? We're jumping all in the wholesale business. So we decided, let's sell everything. The market was at its height. We ended up making like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 extra by selling those 30 properties. Cause you're like, you know what, by the time it takes me to make that much money on cash flow, my partner and I looked at each other, I was like, let's dump these. Let's really focus on wholesaling. And for us, it was probably the best move we made as a company at the time. Like we said, right now we're looking at buying in the Jacksonville market because my buddy of mine is an incredible property management company down there. So this is something we're looking at now. My partner's flying down there, I think next week, just to go look at the market. Because values up here in Connecticut, we have snow, we have older assets up here in the Northeast. Down in Florida, they're a little different assets. Single family, ranches, the upkeep is a lot less than it is up here in Connecticut. So that's the reason why.
I like that because you've explored with a lot of options of how to invest and start businesses, and after giving it some trial and error, you figured out something you didn't like. You didn't like the pain in the ass headache of property management and being the boots on the ground and being responsible for coordinating with tenants and leasing and all of that craziness that comes along with it. And I think that's super valuable because you found your niche. You found how to make a ton of money doing what you do best, putting in systems and wholesaling. Why not focus on that? I think that's super intelligent. And most people just want to try to do everything at once. And that's a sure way to fail.
And like I said before, I have a couple businesses. So I have my virtual assistant company. And trust me, I am going to get the tax man is going to kick my butt, right? Let's call it what it is, because I don't have those buy and holds. So that's another reason why. Not only that, but our accountants said, listen, you guys got to do something. So we have to look at now. You guys are really smart on the buy and hold side. I mean, half of me is like, I wish I could go back and keep those properties. But the other half of me said, you got to stay focused on what you're looking to do. So I think it was a win for us. However, just obviously the tax side of it, we have to look at buying some assets.
I think that's extremely important. What you said there about, sticking to your niche or like holding strong on that goal that you set out. And, for you specifically, like you timed the market perfectly. So you couldn't time it more better. That extra 200,000 to 400,000, you're going to pay some taxes on that and maybe go buy one big property down in Jacksonville and consolidate everything into a 30 or 40 unit property and be right back where you were, but for everyone else out there, you got to stick to what you believe in, to what you're going to be good at. And, sometimes taking that payout isn't going to be as beneficial as you think, because these rentals, you do have that huge tax implications on that with depreciation, with the cost segregations that we talked about previously, and the depreciation in them that can really offset that business. And I think that's kind of where you're getting at, is those rentals that would offset all of that massive income you're getting from this huge wholesaling business and this VA business that you've created. And that was a way to kind of lower your taxable income right now. So, you got to pay up to the tax man this year.
You always do. But again, and just to reiterate what you said, this business or this industry, you got to stay focused, because you could get shiny object syndrome. Like, hey, am I going to jump into storage units? Am I going to go to multi? Am I going to go to single family? I got to fix and flip. There's like so much crap thrown at us. If we don't stay focused and get good at one thing first, then you're never going to make money in this business. I mean, I tried everything, and you go like this in your business until you actually stay focused on that one niche, and then that's when it really starts turning around for you. So if it's wholesaling, focus on wholesaling first before you jump into anything.
I really love that. Really love that. So I kind of want to dive into your goals for the business and for yourself personally. Like you've had a successful career here. It sounds like you're not letting off, the gas pedal. You're pushing down even further. So, what is that financial freedom number, or that number that you're working towards personally for you and your family? If you'd prefer to share it with us personally or with your business.
Yeah, now I'll talk about the virtual assistant side first. It's opening other lines of businesses, maybe jumping into different industries. Really good within the real estate professional space. I'd like to jump into another industry. That's a goal on my virtual assistant side. But on the real estate side, we're looking to open up a couple offices, one more near Connecticut, maybe in Massachusetts, another one down south. So that's the goal, probably in another year and a half. So I think that's something we're looking to do. And it's, for us, we're very passionate about it, because we're starting to build the best team to where individuals in our office won't mind moving and actually managing other offices. But it starts obviously with your own office here, but that's actually the long-term goal.
The long-term goal. And then is there a revenue number that you guys are looking to hit on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, that you guys have personally set out to do? What does doing 240 transactions at 20,000, what is that? Is it a $10 million business? Where are you at?
Yeah, well, that's that one's a 6 million, but you have overhead, right? So we would like to do, one of our buddies literally just had $1 million month. So if we could mirror that and, do that, it's a high goal, right? Let's call it what it is, but you can't win unless you set goals. And that's a very, very high goal. So if we get $1 million a month consistently, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Go ahead, James.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your VA business a little bit, because this is a pretty unique business that you're starting to build. And I'm curious, what it looked like to start that business. Where are the people that are working for you, and how that kind of came together. So let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, so all my virtual assistants are out of the Philippines. Started back in 2014. Like I said, I got my first one in 2013. Light bulb went up, said, hey, this could be a potential business, because all of our coaching students, myself needs it, and all the business owners need it. So I tested it for about 2 years. Come to find out, it was a needed product or service, I should say, out there. And then from there, we just started building it up, offering it to our students, and then the ball started going. Went through a business partner breakup back in 2018. So I launched now my new company here. Just so everyone knows, in real estate or in any type of business, that's a very common theme. The longer you've been in this business, that's just going to happen. So it's part of the game, and you take it as a positive, because I look at it now, it's the best thing ever happened to me. Probably the best thing ever happened to my old business partner too. So I think that's the way to look at everything. And now, if you look at the business now, it's extremely strong. We branched off to not only real estate, also there's a medical side to it as well. So once you have a foundation, and here's the way I look at it in any type of business, kind of the buy and hold business, right? You're going to struggle for the first, let's say 0 to 10 doors before you make any money, as an example, right? So it's the same thing in the virtual assistant world. You got to get your numbers, because I know a lot of individuals say, hey, I want to jump into the VA world. I'm like, perfect, you could, but there's a barrier of entry where you're not going to make any revenue within this certain amount. So that number's got to be, you guys got to figure that number out. And not you guys, I'm saying everyone in general has to figure out what that number is, whether you're a rehab or a wholesaler, et cetera, or buy and hold individuals. So again, I don't know if I answered that question, but.
No, I mean, I think you kind of did. So with this virtual assistant business, what is their main task that they're helping people with? I know what I hired mine for was, video editing, taking care of Instagram posts, doing PowerPoint presentations and different things like that. What's the average person that's hiring one of these VAs that you have using them for?
So a lot of them use them for lead generation, social media. It's actually really funny. So when you guys sent the email, your email came in and there was a Riva Global virtual assistant on the actual email. I'm like, so Preston's our marketing director. I'm like, hey, I think they have one of our Riva VAs, and he sent a message back. He's like, no, that's one of ours because they help us with podcasting and doing all this stuff. So it's actually kind of funny you say that. But we have some that do podcast editing as well that send them on social media. But a lot of it's lead generation, cold calling, text messaging, lead manager, which is following up on database leads as well. We have a lot of clients that are in the property management business that use them for leasing, lease renewals, maintenance. We have a ton on the bookkeeping side, which are, they handle accounts payables, accounts receivables, etc. So I know I just kind of laid down a lot of stuff, but
well, I'm interested in this. So let's say for me, for instance, okay,
yep.
I want to hire one of these VAs to do some lead generation for myself.
Yep.
For my own business. So what does that process look like? And is it a monthly thing? Do you pay by the hour? Like, how does that kind of work for the people out there that are thinking right now, like, hey, I could use a VA. Like, what does it kind of look like?
So we offer part-time, full-time. So it's 20 hours a week or 40 hours a week. And it's exactly how I use my VAs in my business. Let's use lead generation as an example. If you want them to text message, they could pull down the list. They could help get them skip trace, upload them into whatever tool you're going to use. And then they could also send messages, respond back, and cold call. So and then send that lead over to you. So that's exactly what we do. We have, I don't know how many right now text messages we have, but we have 8 to 10 right now. I'll have to check with the guys. And then we have probably the same amount that do cold calling as well.
What's the pricing on someone like that? Do you happen to know? Is it like $7 to $12 an hour? Is it cheaper, more expensive?
We keep it standard $10.60 an hour. Whether it's part-time or full-time. I've tried every other model out there, and that seems to be the best model. I know there's companies that have different types of pricing models, etc., but I keep it at that no matter what.
I mean, that sounds pretty reasonable. You figure you're spending $800 a month on a part-time, professionally trained VA that you know is going to be good, instead of, I've been onto some of those websites where you put out a job listing and you get 300 responses and don't know what
That's why I started the business. I did the same thing. It took me so much time to interview and and then by the time you go through 100 applications, you pick one, all of a sudden now the VA doesn't show up, and now you got to start the process again. And I'm like, so that's one of the reasons why I started the business as well.
That makes a ton. That makes a ton of sense. You definitely found a part in the market for that, and I think that's great. I do really want to touch on the breakup of your partnership, because I know a lot of people partner, and you even said that you love working with people and partnering with people, and like you said, there's going to come a time where most likely you're going to have to go your separate ways. So tell us a little bit about that, and then what you're doing now based on that experience.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's real estate or VA side of it, it's when you start working with individuals, you got to have the same vision, right? You have to have the same goal, same vision, and you have to be aligned that way. Once the alignment starts getting, kind of shaky or whatever, you have to. So for me personally, it was just the vision side of it. His vision was there. My vision was here. Decided to break up and then move on from there. But my recommendation right now, what I do different now, is just vet your partners and make sure that your visions are aligned. So in real estate, if your visions are, hey, you want to jump into wholesaling and maybe in the future take those funds and then, maybe buy multifamily properties, just make sure your visions are aligned. I think that's the best advice I can give you, because and visions could change, and that's okay. Just make sure that you're open to hearing the other individual, and communication is the key. I know a lot of people that are married on this podcast. We all know that communication is key, because if your communication is not good, it's going to be a long life for all of us. So, and it's the same thing with business partners.
Right. And I always tell people, business partnerships, they're just like marriage. You want to date before you commit. You want to know the person you
Good
get
point.
involved with, because you're going to learn a lot over time. People will come across a deal. They might feel like they need to get into a partnership just for money aspects or, having
Yeah.
funding. But you're committing yourself to a legal obligation for an extended period of time. So take the time to
Yeah.
have the due diligence to figure that stuff out ahead of time. What kind of advice would you give to people in hindsight, having started
Yeah.
multiple partnerships, to find the right partner to, get involved in business with, or just, generally protect themselves?
I would do it all over again, to be 100% honest with you. You learn so much through having a business partner, and I wouldn't do anything different. It's just over time, you know, age changes you, age changes me. Situations change. I would do the exact same thing, to be honest with you, but it's just, I think you nailed it. It's, date before you get married, right? I think that's the best part about it, because, maybe before you become business partners, you date for a year, right? And I think that's probably the best. You could split everything 50-50. You don't need to own everything, like, in my name or your name. Just split everything 50-50 and have that agreement. Especially in real estate investing, you could change your name in 2 seconds, right? If I have an LLC, it doesn't matter. I mean, if we go through a business partner breakup and I'm a wholesaler, I could change my name in 2 seconds and still be in business. So I think a lot of us sometimes get caught up in that side of it. So don't get caught up too much, especially on the flipping business, unless you have assets tied to it. If you're not totally sold, don't put all your money in one basket. And if you do, make sure you both have equal ways to get that money, and then you have an agreement. Let me take a step back. Make sure your operating agreement lays everything out. I think that's what I have to tell you, because now, again, I'm like I'm a typical man. I don't know if I could say that anymore or not, but I like to forget things right away, right when they happen. I don't like the pain stuff. I'm an optimist, so then I see everything as glass half full. It's not empty, it's full. So that would be my now, as we're talking through this, that's what I would do. Make sure your operating agreement is ironclad.
I agree. And we're getting some strong legal advice from a recovering attorney over here by Mr. Rippion. So
Yeah.
anything you want to touch base with on that operating agreement for those out there listening?
I'll say a couple things. There's three really big components for an operating agreement: money, control, and exit. If you're covering those three things, you're going to cover a lot of bases. And definitely work through the operating agreement to make sure it says what you think it says and what you think it should say, because a lot of people will just fly through it, just make sure that their equity interest is defined in there, and then just not think anything about it. But there's a lot of things that need to be considered. Most importantly, how do you exit this thing? Like, what kind of votes are required? What is there any kind of retained equity by the company if you're selling at a discount? So all these other things can be considered. So of course, talk to your attorney, find someone who knows what the hell they're talking about to guide you through this, and just talk amongst yourselves with your partners to make sure everyone's on the same page.
1000%, 1000%. Well, we've talked about so much here. We've talked about all these different businesses, being in real estate for 15, almost 20 years from the start, like, and still doing it and still putting your foot on the gas pedal. So I kind of want to peel back the onion here and figure out, like, what motivates you, like what's driving you to continue to do this day in and day out with the passion that you have for it.
Yeah, I think it's the impact you can actually make. So with my virtual assistant company, one person you hire, it not only affects that person, it affects their kids, their parents, wherever they invest that money or put that money back into it. So same thing with here, right? We just had this meeting today with a new salesperson that wants to join our organization, and I said, listen, the only way for me to make money is if you make money first. So it's better to invest in individuals and other people, because to see the impact that they can actually do in this world. I know it may sound cheesy, I don't know, but I've always been, even in sports, I was always an assist guy, so I didn't give a crap if I set you up and you scored 3 goals a game. It didn't matter to me, right? It was, we would win in the end. We'd win national championship, we'd win whatever championships. It's the greater win, because what's better than winning? You win as a team. It's way better than winning as an individual.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think there's been a resounding response to that one, and it's never really the money. It's the success in building something, you know. I think that's really what gets the most people that go the furthest is, you know, building something, whether it's for your family, for, you know, for your partners, for all your investors. It's that sense of building something, and then all the monetary stuff, you know, comes with that. If you have the foundation set in stone, all of that other stuff comes with it. So
you never do anything for money, because if you do something for money, it's not. I mean, you know, when you're younger, you say, "All right, I want to do everything for the money," but that actually changes over time, because in the end, you know, if you have money, yeah, you can live by yourself and have money, right? You have, let's say you have $10 million and you're sitting in your house by yourself. That's not living, right? You nailed it. It's never in the end about the money.
man, what an absolute perfect segue into our last segment of the show on that one. And we like to call this one the Big Four. James, take it away.
All right, Bob. So I want you to tell us something that is a financial independence hack. Something's like a cheat code to help you propel your personal finances forward.
A hack. I don't know. The hack is, you know, watching podcasts, reading, just and listening to individuals that actually are where you want to be, right? So finding a mentor, finding somebody who's actually has accomplished what you're looking to, and not listening to people that never accomplished it. I think that's very, very important. You know, you got individuals that say, well, I read a book and here's how you actually make money, but they're making 50 grand a year. Don't ever listen to those people. I guess that's my hack.
That's a great hack, man. There's a lot of fake influencers out there. There's a lot of fake people, you know, promoting success that haven't done it. So I think that's a great one. That is an absolute great one. All right, number 2, we call this one resources. So are there any specific books, podcast, or people that have influenced and shaped your, you know, business mindset, your personal mindset, your investment mindset that maybe our listeners haven't heard of yet, that they could benefit from checking out?
Besides this podcast, we'll go with a book called Compound Effect. I thought that was that's an incredible book, especially on the buy and hold side, right? Everything compounds on top of each other, whether the mortgage is getting paid down, whether the passive income starts building up. So I think that would be the one that I would gift the most, if you will.
Great book. Highly recommend that one as well.
Yep.
All right, Bob, 5 years in the future, man, where's your business at? Where's your personal life at? What's going on with you? What's everything look like?
Yeah, I'd have to say, obviously, 2 different sides of it. On the V side, I'd probably be at, you know, a couple thousand virtual assistants. As say on the real estate side, probably like to do is 1,000 transactions a year, which would be pretty cool. So I think we'll go 2,000 and 1,000 on each of those.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So for everyone out there that has listened to this podcast, is possibly interested in checking out the VA stuff, maybe coming to work for you, wants to reach out and, you know, follow you on the socials or check out your website, like where's the best place for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can check me out on Facebook. You can go to our website, which is revaglobal.com, REVA global.com. My email is bob@revaglobal.com as well. You can reach out to me direct. My real estate company's name is Purchrock, PURCHROCK. So we have, again, websites, and where I'm at, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. You guys know the drill, man. This podcast has been packed full of all kinds of information. I know I'm going to have to go re-listen to it to unwrap all of the good bits that you've been putting out here. Now, we give out this information for free every Tuesday, but it's not quite free. All we ask that you do is hit the like button, drop a comment down below, leave us a review, Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. Please send us a DM. James and I are working for those DMs. That's all we're working for here, to bring you guys new, interesting topics every single week to help you follow your goals and achieve financial freedom. And with that, we'll catch you next time.
See you guys.